Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where we are going to talk about ROVs, remotely operated vehicles, and the ability to control them with a tether or a cable, or fully to control them with a remote control and frequency and all that kind of stuff. So here you can see two of my newest ROVs, and if you've been following along, I've been working very hard on getting them up and running. And the reason for that is because I actually have planned a couple of ships that I want to actually put these in, and they work much better than my old versions. So here we have the C-Fi-2, and over here we have the C-Fi-2R, as you can see by the symbol. Now the 2R version is fully able to be controlled with a remote, whereas the C-Fi-2 has to be tethered with a cable. So here we have this kind of workstation that I've developed, and if we go into the seat and turn this on, you'll see that now you're getting the view of the one controlled by the remote control tether. Here on this side is the one that is fully remote operated or radio operated, and to turn that one on you press this remote ROV mode, and now you could see error ROV offline. So now we can tell we're on frequency 1. I have to go here, turn this on, frequency 1. It says it's connected to the control station, and now with this one is connected to the ROV, and we can fully read the information coming from the one that is radio operated. Now it did take me a little bit to figure it out, so I'm going to share with you the process I did to develop the remote or radio operated version from the standard tethered version. You may notice that when we are using the battery powered one, it actually says the battery. If I turn that off and go back to our tethered version, the battery symbol is gone. However, it always will give us the distance of the ROV from our position right here. So I developed an awesome microcontroller I'm quite proud of, and some other systems and features, including here you can see where the ROV is, the red arrow, in relation to the blue dot, which is the boat or us. So there's a couple of different systems that I did. Also, I added a warning, meaning if it's low battery, there's a warning. If it's disconnected, there's a warning, all kinds of stuff. So you'll determine and see all that when you play with these creations. The nice thing about the one that has the radio operated mode is it can still be operated with the cable. If you plug in a cable here and just make sure this switch is off, it still is able to be normally operated. So it kind of gives you dual functionality, and I did make sure that the little electrical connectors are in the same position, so if you make a ship you can actually put both of these in the same cradle. On to the problem at hand now. So this is the version that I actually released to my Discord server, and they were able to play with it and all that good stuff. So this is fully tethered, meaning right now it's not made to work for any type of radio system. It's fully tethered, fully connected via cable, wired if you will. So if we go into the microcontroller here, you'll see that everything is coming out of this cable anchor. So information is coming out of the cable anchor in the form of controls, move left, move right, whatever. And in addition to bringing information into the ROV from the cable, you're putting information back into the actual cable itself and telling my control ship or control station, whatever, information as well. So in this case, we have the cable anchor that goes, the information that goes into the cable from the ROV, and it's going to be stuff like the position, the GPS, the speed, whatever. So it's a two-way street of communication, and this is a tutorial in part if you are interested in this type of thing. If you have yourself a remote operated vehicle, one that is tethered, and you want to convert it into being radio operated. So if you go here to the control station microcontroller, you have the same issue or same setup where you have the winch feeding us information in the form of numbers that go into my script. So this is the depth, whatever. And you also are putting information into the cable here. So that is stuff like turning the light on or off. Now, I'm not going to go into all that here in this video, so I'm assuming you have a decent amount of skill in communicating with using various cables. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that the cable has a composite output and it has a composite input, and likewise your winch, composite input output. So when you connect these two with a cable, you are actually feeding a two-way street of information, one to the other. Now, one would think that it would be a simple exercise to convert this into being a radio-operated vehicle, but let me show you something. So let's say we put our radio antenna here, and we're going to put one on the ROV. Of course, we have to connect it to the electricity. We have to connect this one to the electricity. And then we're just going to go on and make a fully, call it, dumb replacement of these nodes from the winch into here and from the radio or from this microcontroller into there. So now we've fully bypassed the winch, and we'll do the same for the cable anchor here. We'll connect that to that, and we'll connect this to this. We'll disconnect that one. So now the cable does nothing anymore. It's fully going through the radio. Now, of course, you have to keep in mind, you do have to set a frequency. So we could just do a constant number in both instances here. And what we'll do is attach this to there, attach this to the frequency, and do something like, let's put it on channel 8. And here we'll put on channel 8. Now, in addition to that, keep in mind your radio has to be transmitting. So what do? Now again, this is all wrong, just by the way, so I'm just giving you a quick example. So like, this is if you kind of thought I'm just going to do a simple replacement of the winch with a radio antenna. So let's just say you put it transmit mode on, and you spawn it in to go take a look. And actually, first things first, we do have to disconnect this. And second, have to put a video antenna. So video transmit and video receive. So video transmit here, video receive over here, and that's going to feed our video into our TV. So previously it was going from the winch, so we remove that, and previously here it's going to the tether, and we're going to put it here. Again, connect all that to the electricity, connect this one to electricity, and make sure that it is on the same frequency. So frequency channel 8, and this one's on frequency channel 8. First thing you'll notice is, well, it's not working. Why is it not working? First diagnostic test is probably going to show that this is either not on the same channel or it is otherwise not connected. Now, we did connect it to electricity. We did connect it to the constant feed. This goes to there, that's good. This goes from here, which is fine. We could even disconnect that one. And make sure that this is getting that constant number. So constant number here. This is transmit, and then we need to have the receiver end here, which is there. Of course, what I forgot is to actually put a battery on this ROV unit. So without a battery, obviously everything is not working. So I'm just going to plug in a small battery for this test, and you'll see it will work. Okay, you're getting feed. And now you're happy because all of a sudden you're getting a nice, strong signal for your video. However, if you start to try the controls, you notice nothing is working. You can't turn on your lights. You can't really do anything. It's not communicating. So even though you're getting your video feed, you are not properly transmitting to your ROV. First things first, there's a few errors here, but obviously you can't have both radio antennas transmitting at the same time. Remember, if you hold a walkie-talkie and you press the button, you are going to be constantly getting static or transmitting, and the other people on the line, if you have other people using walkie-talkies, they won't be able to hear. There's only one transmitter. So I've just disconnected the transmit mode on the ROV. Let us assume that it is our control station communicating with the ROV. Still, now you get lights. Now things are starting to work, but you're also getting an issue. You cannot get it to work properly. You're not getting any of the depth, you're not getting the seafloor, you're not getting any of this. So, what do you need? You have to have 2 radio antennas with 2 different frequencies. So if we go ahead and put a different antenna, and then we're going to take our constant number, put it here. So now we get a number for our transmit, and we get a number for our receive. Hope you're following along. So in this case now, what we see is this is our receiving antenna. And on our receiving antenna, we're going to put a frequency of, let's put 9 for this video, and put 8 for the one that we're sending information. So now you have to put this or plug it in accordingly. So receiving is going to go to this antenna here, which is connected to that constant number, and sending, which is also on the transmit mode, you're going to put it and plug it in here to constant number. So that's the first step on this side. Over here, we got to match that. So we have the 8 and the 9. Now the thing to keep in mind is on the actual ROV, or whatever you're trying to control with the radio, it's going to have a different sequence because you're going to be receiving on the channel that this is sending, and vice versa here. So if we're using channel 8 on this side to transmit, you could see that if we go to this one, this is channel 8, this one is attached to this one. Oh, so here we're using channel 8 to receive because we're obviously putting this on transmit mode. So if we go to composite, this one is receive. So receiving in this case is channel 8. So on this side, sending will be on channel 8. So channel 8 here, we're going to connect that to this one, and we'll attach this to the constant on, and we'll plug in the values that we are sending. Now the received, we're going to put on the other side here, and make sure that whatever is received is going to the other frequency. So received is channel 9, and this one's channel 9 should be what's going to the send. Now it may have just sounded like a bunch of alphabet soup what I just spewed here, but the idea is to have a separate radio wave, separate frequency for your receiving channel, and a separate for your sending for whichever unit you're considering. So one will be sending from the ROV to the control station. One will be sending from the control station to the ROV. Last but not least, you got to plug in your new radio wave antennas and all this stuff to the power. And then we can spawn it in and see what type of systems work and don't work. So first thing you can see, we got a depth reading. So we now know that we are in fact sending information. And if I turn this throttle up, this goes up and that goes up. If I send the lights will turn on. Vice versa with the magall. So now we have a perfectly working system that we can translate directly from having it be radio control or having it be tethered controlled to being controlled with a radio controller. So in this case now, obviously this doesn't quite work because look at all this stuff on top, the small battery. So that's where I went and expanded this ROV, fitting a larger battery. I cleaned this up and then I started adding in the other programming channels, including the low battery warning. Also, the one that is battery operated does have a transponder as well. So if you fully drop off the signal, if you're below 30%, it will turn on the transponder until it picks up, until you can collect it. Now for the ROV itself, you can get away with using a smaller antenna because of course your control station will have a large antenna that will be able to communicate over larger distances. So this is going to 1 kilometer range. So even though this one goes a smaller distance, I've put larger ones here. And in fact, I could even increase this to the largest one possible because then it's going to get us the maximum possible distance. Now, one thing that I did automatically here that I didn't show in my little tutorial is in the actual microcontroller, I did a ton of rework, including setting up a system that has the radio frequency and radio send. Now remember, when I was scrolling through the channels on the ROV, it just went up to 1 to 9. However, of course, you're not just using channels 1 to 9, you're using channels 1 to 9 plus a different set of numbers that are somewhere else. Now in this case, I just put X plus 10. So if you're using channel 1, you're actually using channel 1 and channel 11 to send your information to the control station. Now, vice versa in the control station, you just have to make sure that whatever number you are using here is going to be on the receiving side. So remember, if you're sending from the ROV, you're receiving on the control station. If you're sending on the control station, you're receiving on the ROV. So it has to be flipped around. They can't be the same. Send and send can't be 8 and 8. You have to make send 8, receive 8, for example. So I did add a bunch of other safety systems. I added the RC mode active, which is the first button you turn on. That then turns on the batteries. It turns on all kinds of stuff. And I did play around with the coding even more. So I'm happier than ever with the system that you see here for these two ROVs. To end off this video, we're going to do a test of the radio controlled version of the ROV. So we'll do a step-by-step walkthrough of how to operate the radio version. First thing, you'll turn on your station and you'll notice that it's offline. So first, what you have to do to combat that is turn on the ROV's toggle button on the side here. And once that's on, you can see we're communicating. We'll put on channel 4 for now. And then you head back here and you can jump up. And now on this, we'll turn it on and set it to channel 4. And there you have it. So now you're connected and everything is being read on what you have. Now we're going to start to drive the ROV down. Keep in mind that the batteries work in a way such that when the battery is actually at 30%, it's almost unusable. It's not going to have any propulsion. So what I did to sort of fight this is actually when the battery is at 40%, the ROV reads it as being at like 10. So that gets you much more into the ballpark, and you can kind of still save it and bring it back rather than having it stall out on you down at the bottom of the ocean here. So you can see that the battery does waste generally kind of fast, but it's also user initiated. So the idea is once you get down to the wreck, you're not driving around speeding, you're just exploring it very slowly, so you don't need full throttle. Full throttle is good when you're trying to get down to the level here. So another alternative other than what I just did is obviously press left, but pressing left does drain more batteries because it actually uses 4 propellers to go down there. Now I've held 1 to kind of cycle around or rotate. Because there's only 1 rear propeller on this ROV, you actually have to have there's 1 rear propeller, so then you use the side propeller here to position it and move it left and right. In another version where I'm going to make 2 propellers on the rear, obviously you can stagger them, 1 goes in, 1 goes out, and then you can rotate around the ROV. But in this case, you're using the side one. But you can see, when it's like this, kind of static, it starts to float. It's neutrally buoyant pretty much, and it's not even using the bottom thrusters, it's not using anything. Very small bottom thruster, and you can sit like this, and now your battery is not going to be a factor. So obviously when you come down to the wreck, you have the ability to like very slightly, like if I put on a very slight forward thrust, you can kind of move through this shipwreck. You do sometimes have to put it to a fast thrust and then slow it down, kind of to overcome that initial kind of push, the initial friction of water. And then of course you could use your cam-eye mode. And that does waste more battery, but it does get you the ability to kind of see all around you. And of course with cam-eye mode you still can rotate the ROV. So now we're actually turning while in cam-eye mode. Very small forward propulsion, but now in this case it's not wasting a lot of batteries. So I did have someone on my Discord server say that they would like, you know, it to have a 15-minute battery life, whatever. So what I will say is it is fully user dependent. If you don't speed around on the seafloor, you can see we're at 88%. So it does let you use it and operate it. It just to get down to the seafloor level, where it's going to take a little bit of drain, and obviously to bring it back up to the surface. Now I'm going to turn off cam-eye mode and try to hold the right arrow. You can see on the right hand side of the display it's fully green. Now you can also use your fins in conjunction with this mode to actually level or stabilize your craft, but you could see that we're gaining, we're coming back to the surface. We're at 42, 40, but as you know, because we're now using the 4 propellers on the bottom, it will be draining more battery. That's inevitable. But I'm holding right now right and down. If I didn't hold down, it would go up at kind of an angle. But you could see here on your display that we are now facing opposite of our boat or control center. So I've just given us forward thrust, and I'm going to turn us around here while giving a little bit more thrust up. And once we are facing our control center, control station, we can just kind of make our way back home. We did get quite far from the shipwreck because it was pushing us forward as we were using that up and down. So you just have to be wary that when you use these modes, it may actually bring you off target, but of course that's where this little display comes in, so you have an idea of where you are in relation to your ship or control center. So with that, we come to a stop. We just put it up to the final surface here, and actually we're just going to collide with it a little bit, but it's back. So that is in essence how to use the radio operated one. Now you can see it may start to freak out and do stuff like that. In that instant, it's because it's at the surface. So you can use your 1 and 2 commands to stop it from doing that. And you can see that I've leveled it out. So I kind of use that little fin on the side, and now it's stopped and good to go. So there was our little test. Even after a 6-minute trial run, we're at 65% battery. So even now it has enough juice probably for one more run down to the bottom, but it all depends on what you do at the bottom. If you're not moving around too fast, you will get a good amount of power and a good amount of time that you can use it. Obviously, turning on the welder, turning on stuff like this does drain it fairly quickly. So you have to keep in mind, if you are going to be using these types of features, maybe a tethered one is better, or I will develop a larger ROV at some point, and that will probably be better for larger missions, but this is good enough for now. On a side note, I think this ROV is super cute, just like a little smile face with eyes. And there you have it. That is the video. So thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more content. Stay tuned for more creations. The reason I put in so much time into this ROV is because I intend on using it for a lot of other builds, including the catamaran, including a larger diving support vessel, and all kinds of stuff. So stay tuned for all that, and thank you for watching. Happy Stormworksing, everyone.